Hey everybody in cyberspace, this is Greg Harris coming to you from Los Angeles, California. I wanted to touch bases with you about one of my favorite topics, and that's personal development. I absolutely love this stuff. One of the things I wanted to talk about today is actually about effective communication. Now, have you ever talked to a client or a customer or whatever the case may be, and the communication wasn't quite there? You said all the right things, but the prospect heard something completely different. Have you ever experienced that? Well, one of the things before we dismiss it as they didn't understand it, before we do that, we might want to take into consideration is our communication style, our modalities that we use in our communication style. We want to make sure that all the modalities of communication are going in the same direction, not in opposite directions. We don't want to give somebody a mixed message. And mixed messages doesn't necessarily mean that you said two different things. It could be, how you're communicating. You might make one particular point and then you communicate it in a way that doesn't relay that same point. So, for example, not for example, let's just jump right into it. Now, when it comes to communication, there are three aspects to it, three modalities that are a part of it. Now, the first one is your words. The second one is your tonality, as in the tone of your voice. And then the third is your physiology, your body language. It's a little more scientific than just straight body language, but your physiology plays a part in your communication. Now, your words are actually 7% of your communication. Only 7% of your communication is the actual, or are the actual words that you speak. The second part, the tonality, is only 38% of your communication. The tones in your voice, the fluctuation in your voice. And physiology is actually 55%. Physiology is actually 55% of your communication. So when you're using words to communicate, because we're all emotional beings, I think we all know that. Even logical people that are really just feeling good about being logical, even they're emotional. I mean, I used to think that I was just simply logical, no emotion, but I was actually emotional about being logical, if that makes sense. So we have to communicate in a way that the prospect understands it logically and neurologically or emotionally. So being that words are only 7% of the communication, it's a great start, but we have to deliver that message. And we deliver that in our tonality and in our body language. Now, we can take a phraseology such as, I didn't say that I love you. Now, if we make that statement, dependent upon our body language and our tonality, will relay different messages. Now, if I were to say to somebody, if I were to say to anybody, hey, I didn't say that I love you. What does that sound like? Well, it sounds like I didn't say that I love you, right? The words speaks the point, but how I deliver it is actually, just like the words that I'm using. Now, what if I put a different tonality and different points in the statement? Now, what if I were to say, I didn't say that I love you. What does that sound like? Well, I didn't say that I love you. Putting that emphasis on say might mean a number of different things. I didn't say it. Maybe I wrote it. Maybe I emailed it. Maybe I told someone else to tell you, whatever the case may be. But that emphasis, the tonality, and even the body language, well, I didn't say, that emphasis on say creates a different point. Now, what if I were to say that I didn't say that I love you. I didn't say that I love you. What does that sound like? Well, I didn't say I love you. Well, I could have said I liked you. I could have said this. I could have said that. But the emphasis is actually on love. Now, what if I were to turn around and say, well, I didn't say that I love you. What does that sound like? Well, I love somebody, but it ain't you. So the words are exactly the same, but the tonality in different parts of the statement and the physiology actually relays a completely different point. Completely different point. Now, does that automatically mean that every prospect that you speak to will, buy your product or join your business or whatever the case may be? No, of course not. There's a big element of the numbers game in that. But as marketers and as prospectors, making sure that we are communicating in a way where everything is going in the same direction is of paramount importance. So, again, words 7%, tonality 38%, physiology 55%. We want to make sure that all of our communication modalities are going in the same direction. Now, I don't know if you remember back in grade school watching Snoopy. I think no, Droopy, the dog, and he'd sit there with the droop face and say, "Hello, are you happy people?" It's one of those types of things. I mean, it doesn't. It's supposed to be excitement, but the tonality and the physiology was something completely opposite of what was being said. So I want you to think about: have you ever communicated to somebody something, communicated, not said, because we could have said one thing and communicated something completely different. Have you ever said something and communicated something completely different? Well, that's when we want to take an introspection and actually take a look at how we're communicating. So make sure all the modalities are going in the same direction. If you're supposed to be excited, be excited. If you're supposed to be reserved, be reserved. Whatever the case may be, but make sure all of the modalities going in one direction. All right? The more you know, the more you grow. Stay informed. Take action.